Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Yo ho ho, party peeps. Good to have everybody here and welcome to Business Coaching Secrets. This is Karl Bryan and I'm here with my buddy Road Dog. Road Dog, you there, bud?
Hey, bud. How are you?
Yo,
How are you now?
What's happening over that way?
At the bottom of the hill? Not too much. Is there snow up high on the mountaintop?
There's no snow up here, man. There's no snow. Not yet. Not yet. How about down that way?
Well, you know, the whole probably 30 feet lower than you. No, shockingly, we are safe. We are safe. So.
Okay, so how'd we go this week, man, with some questions? Hit me.
I've got some good ones here. Obviously, for those of you following Mr. King Karl here and his daily emails, which it's like the highlight of his day, writing these things. He can't help himself. But they are pure gold, and this is the response that we're getting. If you're not getting those emails, you need to be. But question out of that. Like, what is your number one mindset hack to accelerate business coaching success?
What is your number one? So mindset, okay, well, first of all, mindset, everything starts with mindset. I mean, anything in this world is 80% psychology, 20% mechanics. If you're a hockey player, same thing. It's just about getting your head right. If you're a student trying to graduate at Harvard, it's about getting your head right. You're a parent, you want to control your kids, or not so much control your kids, but, develop and create some astute young individuals that go on to have amazing lives. Again, 80% psychology. So it is 80% psychology, no matter what it is you're doing. I would say that, thinking bigger is something, again, that I'm a proponent for. I've talked about, often. Like, if you got a $3 question, you're going to get a $3 answer. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. In fact, not even that nowadays, right? Like, ask yourself a $30,000 question, and you're going to get a better answer. Like, for instance, instead of working out how you could charge $1,000 a month as a business coach, here's an idea. I want you to build a $100,000 coaching program, and I want you to sell it within 30 days, or I'm going to blow you and your family up. Which I wouldn't do, by the way. Road Dog would never do that. But that's a different mindset. You're going to get a very different answer to that question than you are the question of how can I get $1,000 a month coaching client, right? So, and in some cases, depending upon where you're at in your journey in terms of business development and personal development, that might sound trite and somewhat straightforward, but I'll tell you, often it's the fundamentals. Like, the weight loss industry always blows me away, right? Like, what is it? I don't know, $100 billion question or $100 billion industry. Look, at the end of the day, stop eating crap that's white. Stop eating sugar. Get your fat ass out of bed 15 minutes early. Go for a walk and drink some water throughout the day. And if you want to get really, really crazy, hit the gym and lift a little bit of, lift some weights, some light weights. You don't injure yourself and then refuse to go back tomorrow. And magically, you'll lose the weight. Like, I don't know how it's a $100 billion industry when that's, that is the reality, end of story. So I bring that back to building a mindset hack, building your business coaching company. Have you written down your goals yet today? And I'm going to bet $100,000, boom, right here, right now, that you haven't. And if you haven't, like, these are the basics. These are the fundamentals. That's the equivalent to getting your butt out of bed 15 minutes early and going for a walk. So, sometimes and I bring that to the question is about, a mindset hack. And really, look, let's just go, before we look for hacks, let's look for the absolute fundamentals. You know what I mean? And then I have you guys, there's a good chance that if you followed my stuff, you've heard me say this before, but I'll wake up. This is something that I have done for a very long time, and I cannot begin to tell you the results that it's brought into my world, but I'll go for a walk. Like I want to accomplish a goal. Okay. And like hypothetically, let's assume the business coach listening wants to hit, $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year. First of all, that's a horrific goal because it's all about you. But at the same time, I understand that I think that maybe it's a good place to get started, but it's not a good goal. And that a way better goal would be, how can I find my client $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising, and legitimately being able to do it? So that goal is directed towards your ideal client and changing their life and improving their circumstances. And that's going to be a better result, because when you can do that, you basically develop a superpower. And now, finding coaching clients is going to be something you're going to be able to do very easily. And notwithstanding those that don't pay you, if you sit them down and you find them $100,000, if they don't buy from you and they don't work with you, they're probably going to send you a referral. They're going to be saying thank you. They're going to be screaming your praises. And, just the laws of the world are that when you go out and give, do good comes back. It's that simple, right? So let's go back to, what do I do? So I'll go for a walk, and I find that the more animated, the louder I am, and the more I get my body involved, okay, that the quicker this will happen. But I'm a coach, let's presume, and I want to make $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year. I would then go for a walk, and I say, and by the way, shamelessly stolen from Tony Robbins, shortened dramatically from what he says. But before Tony Robbins gets on stage, there's a particular, incantation that he spits out before he jumps on stage, and he still does it to this day, right? Pretty experienced guy, and he's still doing it. So what I do is I say, I now command my subconscious mind to direct me to do whatever it takes to enter my goal, close $10,000 of coaching clients starting now. And I've got to have the starting now, because otherwise it could be like in a month, 2 months, 6 months, 12 months, right? I got to program my subconscious mind to be acting in the now. So I now command my subconscious mind to direct me to do whatever it takes to make $10,000 a month in recurring revenues from coaching clients starting now. I now command my subconscious mind to direct me to do whatever it takes. And then I go on. And in fact, Road Dog, you can attest to this. Remember, there was a time when you saw me and I was driving in my car, and you're like, you looked like you were talking on the phone. And I was like, dude, I wasn't talking on the phone, man. I was doing exactly what I just said. And I was sitting there saying to myself over and over again as I go for a 1-hour drive. And magically, guys, you remember that? Do you not, Road Dog?
Yeah, I remember it was the family were just pulling into Costco, and there I see Karl sitting in his car at the light. I'm like, he's either on the phone or he's just being crazy right now.
Arms sort of flailing a little bit, I'm sure. But anyway, so dead set. I mean, this is what I was doing, right? So anywho, why am I telling you that? I think that can be, I don't know that that's a mindset hack as much as it is just something that I do with consistency. And by the way, you don't need to grab my language. And if ever, guys, you want that, through the Six Figure Coach magazine or whatever, you can reach out to us and we can send you this language and get it to you. You guys come up with your own. But very importantly, I now command my subconscious mind to direct me to do whatever it takes. Like that bit of language, I think, is so important. Because again, quite simply, it's obvious, but I'm giving my directive, and not giving a directive to myself, but to my subconscious mind, which your subconscious mind is what allows your heart to beat and your heart to beat and basically your organs to work to keep you around. So anywho, so that's what I would say. I don't know. There's probably a few other things, but just think bigger, follow the fundamentals, the absolute fundamentals. It's like 80-20. Like, again, are you, reacting all day? Are you directing the day? Is the day directing you? Maybe is what I'm trying to say, right? There's 80-20 in everything. Are you concentrating on the 20% of the things that, and not so much make you the most money, but make you the most efficient, that are going to get you the furthest? So if it's, you're having a live event and you don't have enough attendees, the most important thing you can do right now is to organize to get 5 or 6 extra attendees to that event. Like nothing else. Your emails don't matter. The phone calls don't matter, right? The doctor's appointment can be, actually, depending upon how important it is. But if it's a checkup or it's a dental appointment that could be pushed off a couple weeks, push this off a couple weeks and get this damn well done. Before the day starts, there's 3 things that you should list that you absolutely need to get done. and get those done before you do the others. In fact, a hack could definitely be that if you do the 3 most important things that you need to do today, and one of those should be writing down your goals and committing to them, but if you do them before 10 o'clock, you end up having one of those days on average where you just do so much and accomplish so much it would blow your mind, right? So are you doing those? Are you following the fundamentals, right? And then I think, having something like, where I'll go for a walk, and I do it while I'm driving, but I find it more powerful if I go for a walk. And I'm also a walker, by the way. That's just what if I'm trying to work something out or I'm having a challenge, I'll go for a walk. I'll ask myself a question before I leave, and I'll go for a walk, and I'll be thinking about that. Like, that's kind of the process. Like, some people meditate. I do that. I go for a walk and I concentrate and I think about it, and I try to get highly strategic. Just, in terms of where I'm going to go and how I'm going to accomplish, how I'm going to get to the goal, which is the answer to that question I asked before I left. So anywho, I'd come up with stuff like that. But, like this stuff, Road Dog, it comes back to the fundamentals.
Yeah.
So I would make sure that I'm doing those. And I would, probably say that those are the hacks. The hacks are the fundamentals, ironically enough, much like trying to lose weight.
So I was trying to find the Thomas Edison quote where it's like, yesterday's thinking won't solve tomorrow's problems. It's something like that, right? It's like the problems that you're currently in aren't going to be solved by the same questions you've been asking yourself. You need to level up your questions that you're asking to solve the problems that you can't seem to solve.
Yeah.
Right?
Love it.
The other piece I wanted to add here, well, first off, by the way, we're getting some feedback. You need to put those incantations in one of your daily emails. So just take that piece of feedback with you. That when we talk about fundamentals, here's a good one. I think it's Grant Cardone. Obviously, like, I am all over this guy lately, and you either love him or you hate him. But as he posted on Instagram this morning, he loves you both ways. It doesn't matter if you love him or hate him. He says, but it doesn't matter what strategy you follow, right? When you're jumping out of an airplane, you're only using one parachute. So stop counting on 50 different mentors and advisors because you only need one.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Grant Cardone, you've got into him lately. Tell me, what is it about Grant Cardone that attracts you?
Well, for me, it's just fine tuning. And again, speaking to some of his people, right? It's just they are all class. They are all professional, and it's like it's making me realize. It's making me level up my game. And it was a specific thing in my entire coaching and recruiting and whatever else I'm doing. I realized that I need to sharpen up my close and my sales ability. And so I'm like, okay, well, who can I study? And it was him. And I like his approach of there's a professional and there's an amateur. And I just realized, okay, I'm still very much on the amateur level as much as we don't like to, our ego doesn't like that. And I'm just absorbing everything I can.
Yeah, I love that. That humility, brother. Humility, I often talk about superpowers, and I truly believe that humility is a superpower. You got to stay humble, and just tapping into your own humility and just being honest with yourself like that. I think that's the power of that is incredible. So.
Well, and then just coming back to your 3 things, like I use a combination of the 10X planner and the full focus planner. And it's just what are your 3 things today? And I use the 10X just to write down my goals daily. But, that's it. Like it's as I heard another one of my mentors, the Garrett J. White mentioned the other day, there's always stuff to do. Like there just is always going to be more to do than that you can handle. So rather than getting overwhelmed by it, just appreciate and accept the fact that this is an ongoing race and more stuff is always going to be added to your plate. And just take a look at those 2-3 things today that if you just got those done, that you would be so much farther ahead, because otherwise you're going to be overwhelmed and you're just not going to get anywhere. So anyways, I'm totally hijacking this entire podcast here, but so let's go ahead and get back on track. So, okay, here's a good question for you. My friend is in the process for the Canadian friends of buying a business. Any advice on what to look for and where to look?
Okay, as far as where to look, it would be handy if he didn't say U.S., Canada, and that's not in the question, I'd imagine.
Well, that would be weird if it was that specific. So
okay.
No.
Okay, so well, this it would change. You know what I mean? Depending upon where you are, would would depend on where I'd encourage you to be looking. But anywho, so what would I say? So first of all, I think this question should be asked more often. I kind of love the way you're going. In fact, like a realtor, again, I can help a realtor at a very high level very, very quickly, no question. If you are a realtor and you are not buying and selling your own real estate, you're missing out. Like, you know what I mean? You're just missing the boat entirely. That doesn't mean you need to do it in the first week or the first month of becoming a realtor. In fact, that's not what I would recommend at all. But as a long-term play, I mean, what you're out there doing, it's like, poker. If you just sit and you play with chips all day and you're any good at it, you should be able to make some pretty good money if you really think about it. Real estate is a little bit the same. Like real estate, there's obviously a lot of money to be had in real estate. Well, if you're out there playing, looking at real estate deals, evaluating business or real estate deals on a daily basis, the nuts, the pieces of gold that could come over your desk on a daily basis, you wouldn't want to just hand those all over, I wouldn't assume, right? So you should be doing it on some level. You should be doing that. So brings me to, I presume this is a business coach, again, asking about buying and selling businesses. So number one, if you're going to buy a business, you want it to be a huge mistake people make, huge. You need it to be underperforming, right? So like if it's a chiropractic office, as an example, and there are 10 rooms, I want 8 of them to be empty, right? In order for me to buy, because I can go from 2 to 8. Like I've got 8 rooms that I can fill. If I go to buy but the mistake that folks make is they go to buy a business and it's got 10 rooms and they think having 10 rooms full is a good idea, right? No, that's a business. There's no room to grow. You're going to be buying it, at the high end instead of buying it at the low end. So you want an underperforming business is what I'm saying. I want it to be low skill on average. So I mentioned chiropractor. Ironically enough, that is not a business on average that I would be buying. If I did, maybe a conversation for another day, but I'd be bringing massage therapy and putting it downstairs or in another wing or what have you. In fact, I might just riff here for a second, but if you've got a chiropractor, okay, and they advertise, nobody's replying, okay? Unless you've been in a car accident in the last short period of time, you're not replying, okay? If you advertise a free massage, there's a good chance you're going to get a really good return because people want massages. They don't want to go to a chiropractor. But the same guy or gal that needs a massage probably needs a chiropractor but hasn't been educated yet. So what happens is you advertise free massage, get a wicked return on your advertising, and then the job of the massage therapist, and picture a husband-wife team, which is where it works magic. Okay, but the wife is downstairs giving a massage. She goes, "Oh, do you feel that? Oh, do you feel that? Oh, do you feel that?" Her job is to get the massage client upstairs to the chiropractor, and then the chiropractor also needs to have not a pay-as-you-go model, which most of them have. He needs to have like a $2,000, $5,000, and a $10,000 unit that he can sell, like as in a package deal. Now, this is where how you turn advertising into profit, which is a superpower. And that's the way I would do it if I was a chiropractor. Okay, so the riffing was in that his business model is probably not, because he's a chiropractor, he's not a businessman, right? He doesn't understand that. He thinks the massage therapist is a pain in the ass, right? Not a good idea. On average, and it depends on the individual and where they're at. But as a rule, the two go hand in hand. It's like Botox and a cosmetic surgeon. Like these are a 101, right? As far as a really effective business model, the Botox gal gets them upstairs into the cosmetic surgeon's office, which he says, well, look, let's do a facelift for X, right? And by the way, not everyone, so don't, like when you do the massage, don't expect everybody to run upstairs to the chiropractor. When you say, do you want fries with that, 33% of the folks say yes. It works pretty well, right? Like it literally puts $1 billion of profit into McDonald's bottom line every year. So every business should have it. But anywho, so where did I go there? A chiropractic office is not one that I would recommend you buy because it's high skill. If I'm going to buy a business, I'm looking for low skill. And then when I say buy, I would also consider thinking about your coaching clients in a niche that you're going to take on. Again, you might want to be thinking low skill because it just, for 100 different reasons, it's an easier business to assist, multiply, potentially, the word scale gets thrown around in the business world. Well, you're not going to be able to scale a chiropractic office nearly as well as massage therapy. conversation over because of the level of skill, because ultimately you need the staff, and a chiropractor and engineers and architects are harder to come by than a massage therapist. Okay. So that would be number two. I'm looking for low-end skill. Number three, I would ask, is it in a growth sector, right? Like, is this an industry that's growing, or is this in an industry that's kind of dying, right? Like, if it was like an electrical business, okay, and not, so like electrical business, electricians are going by the wayside to a degree because of technology, okay? It's getting replaced by technology versus we have an aging population. So if you say anything to me that remotely could be put into the basket of anti-aging, I don't know anything about the business, but I can tell you that it's in a growth industry, and therefore I'm going to be significantly more interested. So think about as pie versus slice of pie. Again, people make the big mistake of looking at, geez, we could carve out a slightly larger piece of this pie and do very, very well. And then my question, is the pie growing? Right? So anyway, so if I was looking to buy a business, these are some of the things as far as where I'd look. Again, depending upon the country and whatnot that you're at. In fact, even the industry, there's different places that I would look. But the obvious one is biz, buy, sell if you're in North America. But so those are the things. But I'm not sure that's where the questions really. I think what I was just going over is what they were looking for. And these are things as a business coach that I'd be thinking, from a strategic point of view. Like, here's the thing as a business coach, guys, and I can't begin to tell you how passionate and how powerful I think that this is, right? So let's just say hypothetically I was 50 years old and I was like, Karl, I want to get going as a business coach. I'd say, okay, great. Where are you coming from? How much money do you make? How many kids do you got? What are your, what are your overheads, et cetera, et cetera. And the nuts and bolts we'd work out. Okay, so this guy needs to make he makes $75,000 in his job, and he needs to replace $75,000. But the real motivation is that he wants to watch these three kids grow up. And in the summertime, he wants to be able to holiday when he damn well pleases, not when it's convenient for the entire office and he can schedule it off and he needs to avoid his boss's kids' holidays, etc. Right? But here's the thing. So at the age of 50, let's just say you could go out and you make $75,000 a year as a business coach. First of all, the taxes that you will pay, if you make $75,000 as a job, you're paying about 40%, depending upon where you're at, et cetera, but you're paying 40% tax. So it ain't $75,000, end of story. So stop saying $75,000 and start dealing with the real number that you need to replace, right? As a business owner, especially when you're first starting and a lot of your expenses are new, so you write them off, you're going to almost pay, you're going to pay very little tax in your first 1 to 2 years. So if you could make $50,000 as a business coach, and you made $75,000 in your job, you just got yourself a raise. Okay, so congratulations, high five, and you only made $50,000. So reality is you kind of suck, right? But you're going to go up from there. So we go $50,000, but you're 50 years old, and you made, what did I say, 75, or what? No, I said 50. Okay, so in year one we're going to make 50, and again we agree that we kind of suck. We're going to go from 50 to 75 the following year. We're going to go from 75 to 100, and that's 10 clients at $1,000 a month is $120,000, and let's assume some attrition and some headaches. So you're roughly there. But you're 50 years old. At the age of, or you're 52 maybe at that stage after a couple of years. At the age of 55, you're going to be better at it. It's going to be easier. Your network's going to be broader. The referrals are going to be easier to come by. You've got a couple accountants underneath your belt. You filled a few events. You kind of worked out where you fit. So in other end, you're going to be worth more, and it's going to be easier to make the same. When you made $100,000 at the age of 52, it's going to be significantly easier to make that same $100,000 at the age of 55, right? And now at the age, where are we? 50, 55, 60. It's going to be easier again, and you're going to be worth a little bit more. So either take on less clients and make more, or make the same amount, or take on the same amount of clients and make more. And then another 5 years is going to pass, and another 5 years is going to pass. You're going to be 70, and it's going to be easier. You're going to be better at it. So the example I give is that Warren Buffett is the world's highest paid business consultant. People don't think of him as a business consultant, but I can tell you, he invests his time and his money in businesses that he can influence. And if he can't influence you, he doesn't take on, he doesn't give you the money nor the time. It's really straightforward, right? That's what a business coach and a business consultant does. So Or a realtor as an example, right? Once you have a certain birthday and the hips go and you can't get up and down the stairs, I'm sorry, you're not selling houses. So how would you like to have to retool at the age of 65? Probably not, something you want to be doing or thinking about, right? So that is why as a business coach, you get going at the age of 50. You might not make great money in year 1 or year 2, right? I mean, you should if you just pick up the phone and commit to all the stuff that I send out on the daily emails or that Road Dog and I talk about on this podcast, or again, the absolute bloody fundamentals of just picking up the phone and helping people and sending out your messages and being disciplined. You'd absolutely do it. But the whole idea is that as you move along, you get a little bit older, but it becomes easier versus the opposite. And you don't want to have to work out at Home Depot at the age of 70. Like that's going to suck, right? So that's what I would. So I just so the business buying of the business is how I riffed onto that one. Again, I think as a business coach, if I had $1 for every time I was offered a piece of a business, and I'm not talking about for an investment, just, Karl, come and get involved and you can have X amount of the business if you just jump on board. I mean, that's happened time and time again, right? So if you're interested in that, you can run. Tony Robbins runs, I don't know how many, but about 50 companies, right? Like lots of folks run multiple different businesses. Another conversation is whether or not I necessarily agree with that, and that's a good idea because you start chasing rabbits around. But I think if you're highly disciplined, I think if that's your jam and you legitimately do have, like once you start making a couple $100,000 a year and it becomes a lot easier, a lot of your time is freed up. And these are some of the things you'd be thinking about. But I most certainly would be thinking about as a business coach, different businesses that might be for sale or that you could help jump on board and take 25% and say, look, we'll work at this for X amount of time and then exit and sell it, which again, be careful with your focus and chasing too many rabbits. But these are the types of opportunities available to you and some of the things that I would be exploring. But most definitely, businesses close down all the time that could have been sold. And when you really understand it, you just shake your head and say, well, why would you shut down a business doing X amount? You guys hear the stories all the time. No doubt you have friends and people that had businesses that didn't necessarily fall into the category of being highly successful. They weren't making millions of dollars, but they absolutely should have been sold. Look like that, that website and the traffic and the emails and the domain name and the organic, the SEO, the organic search results that it's bringing in, all of these things are worth something, right? And it doesn't need to be worth a hell of a lot, but like 25 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand is a whole lot better than zip, zilch, nada, walking away. So, and the aging population as well, right? Like a lot of baby boomers own these businesses. They've never known what they were doing. They still, in a lot of ways, don't know what they're doing. Like they're like the chiropractor. That's a good chiropractor, not, running a real successful business, but at the same time it's running and they just get older, get a little bit sick of it. At some stage they decide they have enough money and they shut it down. And it's just absolutely crazy. So anyway, so that's what I'd say, Road Dog, as far as somebody looking to buy a business. I gave you 3 things to think about: underperforming, low-end skill, and then the sector, the pie. Is it in a growth sector or is it in a, the opposite? And you want a pie that's going to be growing. So those are 3
Awesome.
things that I'd be thinking about.
The piece I'll throw in there, you talk about chasing rabbits and getting involved in businesses. That's what I love. I love about the contingency, right? Again, when you're working with a small business and you're going to take 10%, and again, by the way, the ultimate positioning there is not saying I want 10%, is just simply saying I'm going to, participate by taking 10 cents of every dollar. Like, I don't know about you, but for me, it just sounds less than 10% by saying 10 cents. But anyways, the piece that I love about that, by staying in integrity with your pricing, if somebody wants more of your time and you want to participate in that business, just simply up your contingency to 20%, right? Like if somebody wants more than an hour, they want 2, maybe 3 hours, you got to look at the business itself and realize the value that that business has and what you can add to it. Why wouldn't you, right? Like, okay, great. I'll take 20, 25%. I'll get more involved. And now you're building yourself that sort of longer game plan of being able to participate even, after you sort of scale back the amount of time you spend. So want to throw that out there too. Now, we talked a lot, Karl, about building, and it's funny because there are questions, because we do have guys that join us on, they're transitioning, right? new coaches coming in, they're transitioning from a 9 to 5. They're making that switch. And because you and I always talk about, again, I don't know if anybody can talk us out of the fact that the absolute best, hands down, punch you in the face strategy is live events, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And again, the question is, I'm not a good speaker. How can I do a live event successfully? But I guess let me just add in, if you're transitioning into business coaching, live events are your best friend, because you can plan it on a weekend, you can plan it around your work schedule, and then you can simply just do the follow-up appointments, hopefully within a week. But again, we can touch on that as well. But in order to pull off a live event, let me transition back to the question then. So I'm not a good speaker, Karl. How do I do a live event successfully?
Okay, you need to know your material. And I just wrote down, I want to make sure that I reinforce what you said. Live. In fact, you and I did a live event, and we got 100. Like, we closed 100% of the room, right? But what's important, there wasn't 1,000 people in the room. It wasn't Tony Robbins at Madison Square Gardens. There was 12 people, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe there's 12 people in the room. We got 7 decision makers. Every one of them bought coaching. We did lose one of them, so I mean, there's an argument that it was 6 of 7. But at the end of the day, we pretty much closed the entire room, right? And in fairness, guys, and not like I've done over 400 local live events. So the good news is that I just know how to disrupt the room. My job when I get there, guys, I'm not looking for a standing ovation. The perfect ending to one of my live events with small business owners that everybody would be crying. They would have their head in their hands, tears rolling down their eyes, saying to themselves, never again. That's it. I'm such an idiot. Line in the sand. This is where I'm going now. You know what I mean? Like, that's the impact. That's what you're trying to bring across. A standing ovation is not the goal. Your job is to move them. Your job is to disrupt them. So I think, again, before I get up there, I think that that's important, right? I'm not there to make them feel great about, well, look, I don't want them to feel great about themselves. I want them to feel great about the future that is now theirs as a result of coming and spending 2 hours with us standing at the front of the room doing magic. You know what I mean? So that's what I'd say. But knowing your material, I think, is absolutely critical. In fact, I don't even call it acting, but I've done some very poor acting. But one of the things they taught me immediately, it's like, Karl, you need to know, because just like on these calls, right, a freestyle. So I'm trying to do some acting, and they're like, you got to follow the script, dude, right? Like, the next person can't follow what the hell you're saying. But most importantly, you need to know your material, right? So like, if Tom Cruise doesn't know his lines, there is no acting. You know what I mean? Like, it might sound, once again, platitudinal, trite, straightforward, like the fundamentals of the fundamentals, but it's so true, right? So you got to know your material. And then before somebody does an event, we constantly hear, I'm pooping my pants, I'm nervous, you know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, and then afterwards, what do they say? They go, oh my gosh, I'm not sure what I was so worried about. It went so well, and they can't wait for the next one, right? And I can tell you what happened. Your subconscious mind, because you were prepared, the person who is unprepared comes out shaking their head going, oh my gosh, that was a disaster, right? If they say that, I can pretty much tell you they didn't prepare properly, because what happens is your subconscious mind will look after you. And that's why when you're done, you're like, I don't even know where I came up with that. Like, somebody asked a question, and I'm like, the answer that I gave them, I had everybody in the entire room agreeing, going, oh, wow, that's really good. That's a different way of framing it up and a different way of thinking about it, right? So number one is you got to know your lines. You've got to know your material. You don't have to know it word for word. And I most certainly, again, when I get up and do a live event, right, again, like I'm going, right? But at the same time, I'm very clear in my intent. And before I get there, I have got a game plan. I've got a goal. And I'm going to move these people. I'm going to disrupt these people into action. That's it. The other thing, actually, which I think is important, but again, maybe a tad off the basic script, but I always want 2 referrals per person. That's how I gauge. I mean, I expect everybody in there to want to sit down. And by the way, when I say we win 100% conversion, that wasn't 100% conversion to appointments. That was 100% conversion to clients, right, at $1,000 a month, right? So bottom line, I want 2 referrals. I expect everybody to buy, but I also want the intent that I want each of them to send me 2 referrals. And I want you to think about this, okay? You always see, if you read my emails, you'll see I always capitalize different stuff. In math, you very seldom ever see me, if ever, see me write math and not capitalize it, because good business is good math. It's just that simple, right? Well, if you do an event, because everybody wants to know that they can fill the next event and then fill the next event. Well, if you get 2 referrals per client, you triple your business instantly. Like, think about that. Once again, that's just a simple math equation, but I would bet very few folks that are listening to this podcast have really thought about that and went, holy cow, like that was probably close to an aha moment, right? That, wow, if I got 2 referrals per person, you literally triple your business. Kind of magic, right? But anyway, so I go in there knowing my stuff with a very, very clear intent, and my intent is to move them to action. And then I expect everybody to buy from me. Of course, that doesn't happen. That's like, I'm not magic, and I don't pretend to be. Believe me, I've done many speaking events where I was a little bit disappointed with the number of people in the room that bought. But I'll tell you this, if I do have one of those, the next one, I'm like, holy cow, I can't believe everybody bought, right? Like, in other words, the math ends up shaking out in the end. And the whole trick is to don't commit to doing one event, commit to doing 10, right? But anyway, so got to know your material, got to be super clear on the intent that you want, but those referrals for me are very, very important. A sense of purpose, again, that's my job is to move them, not just to inspire them. And again, a standing ovation is the wrong approach. That probably means you didn't sell anything at the end. Make the presentation about them. Once again, that's what I've been talking about for the last couple of minutes, but just you've got to make it about them. The mistake we so often make, if I go to your LinkedIn profile and I read it, there's a really good chance it's all about you and how amazing you are and how you're so proud of yourself for getting the MBA or that you got an MBA. They don't give a rat's backside about your MBA. They want to know what that MBA is going to mean to them. They want to know what that experience is going to mean to them. They want to know what that passion and that obsession you have for helping local business owners, how that's going to relate to them. That needs to be when we're at the front of the room. It's like goal setting. Okay, well, here's a step-by-step process for doing it, but what's it going to mean to them? What sort of changes is it going to provide? And the other thing on that note is you got to practice. Practice. Like Tom Brady, right? Again, let's face it. I mean, if he's not the greatest quarterback of all time, I don't know who is, right? Like, he's got to be up there well and truly. And if he's number 3, he's number 3 in your mind. I'm okay with that, but he's right up there. The guy is an absolute stinking legend. Well, he practices 5 days a week religiously, if not 7. You know what I mean? Like, after the game, I'd be curious as to where he's going. And there's a really good chance he's going to his backyard and throwing football by himself. Probably gated community, and he's got his supermodel and his super cool kids hanging out with him. But he's whipping that football like crazy. Like, that's what it takes. Again, like, you don't see LeBron James. We see him on Saturday night, but like, the real LeBron James is the guy in the practice court, right? We all no doubt might know Michael Jordan. He's one of my favorite athletes of all time, if not probably my favorite. In fact, I'm looking at a picture of him right now in my office, looking very cool, doing what looks like he's flying through the air. No doubt you guys know that picture. But anyway, so Michael Jordan, I mean, he was famous for his work ethic. In fact, Kobe Bryan, all same thing, famous for his work ethic, right? So here's my question. Are you famous for your work ethic, right? Are you? When you did your event, did you practice it? One of the things I also do when I practice is I don't start here, but I absolutely do my presentation from the close back to the beginning. Like, I do it in reverse order, because one of the mistakes you probably make if you're doing a live event or doing a lot of speaking, in fact, sometimes you're practicing your sales presentation, you start from the beginning, and for some reason you get messed up at the beginning, halfway through, or before the end, so you don't practice the end hardly at all, and you practice the beginning a ton. Well, guess what matters? The end, you could screw up the rest of it and nail the ending, and you're going to have pretty good conversions. But if you nail the rest of it and you screw up the ending, not so great, right? So make sure that your practice, you've got to practice this to the point, like, like my elevator pitch, right? Like, I can help any business owner find $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising, right? It's not only my pitch, but that's my superpower. And we teach our coaches that same superpower. and they can adjust it, as they see fit. But at the end of the day, that's the superpower. You could wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning from a dead sleep and say it. And I would spit that out without batting an eyelid, no question. In fact, I also have like a sales presentation that I have done, basically just like literally, I don't know if I haven't done it 2,000 times, I've done it 3,000 times. But I could spit out that sales presentation, same thing. And it's like an hour long. You could wake me up from the dead sleep and say, do your sales presentation, poof. And I could do it. And by the way, I haven't done it. I've done it twice in the last many months. I could still spit it out without batting an eyelid. I wouldn't even need my cues. I wouldn't need my computer. I could just sit there and riff it off, right? Okay, who cares about me? Let's talk about you. Do you know your sales presentation that well? And in fact, is that a goal of yours? Is that anything you even think? Is that what you're currently thinking about? And I'm telling you, it's so important. Like, you see, we talk about objection handling and that sort of stuff. Like, the worst people, when you sit with somebody and then they just say yes, this is a problem, okay? Because they're just drinking your Kool-Aid. Once in a while I'll speak to somebody and like the reality is that they're sold before I get them on the phone, right? But again, if they're kind of drinking Carl's Kool-Aid, and I hope that doesn't sound presumptuous in any way because I don't mean it to, it's just reality. If they just say yes too quickly, this is not a good thing. They're not thinking it through. Like, we actually want people to be thinking, what about this? What about that? Have you ever thought of, does this ever happen? What would you do if you were me? What would you ask if you were me? These are the kinds of things we want to be hearing, right? This is somebody who's dead serious about it and about to crank. When you're talking to a small business owner and they're just drinking your Kool-Aid, and you'll absolutely experience and have that if you're doing, live events and getting lots of referrals and changing a lot of lives the way you need to as a business coach. You want to make sure that they've got some objections and, asking you some questions. But anywho, so here's my question. How do you handle them? Like, when they ask them, how do you handle them? Well, if you know your sales process and your sales presentation inside out, backwards, and then right side up, what you're able to do is measure different cues. Like if you're on the phone with me, I can tell you what I can tell you about the questions that you're asking, or not so much the questions, but the way that you're asking it, your tonality, the volume, the speed. I'm reading as much as remember 7% of communication is what you say, right? 93% is the other stuff. So if I'm standing with you, it's body language to a huge degree, right? And if you're sitting down, again, the same thing. I'm looking at where you're moving your arms and, where are they and how much are you moving around and how are you sitting, and matching and mirroring is something that I'm absolutely doing with and for you. If you don't know about that stuff in NLP, you should totally be studying it. But at the end of the day, that's when I'm on the phone with you and I know my sales process inside and out, I'm able to listen to I'm able to weigh other things, because I don't have to think about what I'm going to say and what I'm saying. I don't have to worry about me. I can worry about you. And this is how I move you. This is how I disrupt you. This is how I get you to say, I'm absolutely in. And not just in because they're drinking Kool-Aid, in because they're like, wow, this is the opportunity that I've been looking for. This is what I've been waiting for. Right? So that you got to practice till you're blue in the face, road dog. Absolutely critical. And those are some of the things I would think about before I, did a live event and got up there and looked to disrupt some folks.
Can I just add in the fact that, like, we talk about, them being completely like, oh my God, I can't believe this, blah, 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 right? They got their hands in their face sort of thing, all that sort of stuff. It doesn't have to be mind blowing, cutting edge, latest of the latest concepts. Like, again, a lot of the stuff that we do is basics. It's the fundamentals, and they just haven't done it. And I think one of the reasons that they sit there with their head in their hands is because they're like, I can't believe I haven't done this yet. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
Zillion. In fact, I'd go for, remember, there's things you know, there's things you don't know, and things you don't know. If you get up there and start talking of things they don't know, you're not going to get the connection. It's the second one that you want to go. Things they know that they don't know, right? Or maybe they know that they're not doing. Like when I put goal setting in front of you and I explain the power and I say, have you written your goals down? What do you think you do? You go, oh, whoops, You know what I mean? And I'm like, that's the difference. You're wondering why you haven't hit your targets. You wonder why you haven't hit your goals because you're not following the principles, the basics, right? And then I talk about 80-20 rules like time management. And I say, so are you in reactive mode? Are you directing your day? Is your day directing you? Are you spending 80% of your day on the 20% of the things that matter? Like right now, can you write down the 20% of the folks that spend the most money with you? In some cases they can, in many cases they can't. But then what I say is, and now are you spending 80% of your time with those folks? And are you coming up with new offers and new programs? And are you treating them like gold? Or are you treating the squeaky wheel? Is that the one getting the oil? Is that the one you're treating like gold accidentally? But they're the ones that are paying the least. And and they're not sending the referrals. They're not bringing their friends, and they're not showing up to your VIP nights. They're not showing up to support you. They're not going to your Facebook, like you put up a post and then they share it and then they comment and whatnot, right? Like, are they doing that? And the answer is normally no. So when I say it, that's how I move you. That's how I disrupt you. So you're so right to get up there and think that you need to talk about, the new age innovation and, be like the next coming of Elon Musk up there. The exact opposite, right? Like the goal setting and time management in many ways will move them more than talking about, the market dominating position of the unique selling proposition, which by the way, and again, without going into the whole, script, like we provide our coaches literally word for word script from beginning to end to say, look, just say this and you'll disrupt them. And then we encourage them to take that and then massage it and tweak it and adjust it to, their own words, their own anecdotes, their own stories and examples. But fundamentally, this is a script word for word that'll move somebody, with the PowerPoints and the images, etc. Right? But the bottom, like that's what you got to make sure that you've got those stories. You got to make sure that you've got them to move them. And also have a little bit of the high end stuff. But believe me, you need the absolute basics in there. Like your presentation needs to have a combo. But yes, to your point, you don't get up there and talk about new space age, innovation type stuff because, like I said, you won't disrupt them at the level that you need to disrupt them. Something totally basic that they're not doing is moving. That's goal setting that they're not doing. They're like, oh my gosh, they've all heard it, right? They all know it, but knowing and doing are two different things, which by the way, that should be in your presentation, right? Like knowing folks and doing are two different things. My question is, do you know? And then are you doing? And if the question is, and you're not doing, you're really letting your family down. You're letting your business down. You're letting your clients down. You're most definitely letting yourself down. And they're like,
well, yeah, you're definitely not going up there to explain rocket surgery. That's for sure. Yeah. So with us hyping up your daily emails, which again, you just can't get enough of, how do people get them? If they aren't already subscribed, where do they go to get that daily email?
Yeah, the Six Figure Coach magazine or KarlBryan.com will also get you there. But the Six Figure Coach magazine is where they all come out. So if you come and you subscribe, that's right. In fact, Focus.com, and that's actually at the ending of our podcast, Focus.com will also get you on the list. But one of those three places, let's go Focus.com to make life nice and easy. For everyone listening. And I do agree, Road Dog. You can imagine like nowadays it's, significantly increased, with every email that I write, the feedback and the thank yous and the holy smokes, this is good stuff. There's some really good content, 100% free of charge coming out. And if you just take those emails, you take those concepts, you take, the step-by-step tactical, or in some cases strategic, processes that I'm laying right out on a silver platter, I think people could absolutely move a lot of business owners and most definitely go make themselves a comfortable six-figure, ideally multiple six-figure, and if they're one of our unicorns, they hit $1 million coaching business. So that's where to find them, bud. That's where to find them.
Beauty. And they just keep getting better. As I said to you Friday night, man, this is a superpower of yours that, as you told me, you didn't even know that you had 3 years ago, but it's definitely coming out and we all appreciate it. So
Yeah, but
Anyways,
Road Dog, is that not relevant though? Because we had that conversation, right? And I was like, so somebody, I've gotten better. Like if you go and read my emails from like a long time ago, right? They were a little bit all over I don't know if they were all over the place. Some people, I still got positive feedback. So I was obviously, but at the end of the day, like I think what's important is when I wrote the email, it was like designed to move, disrupt, and provide value. End of story. And again, this is not Karl patting himself on the back. It's completely irrelevant. What is important is the intent behind the email. So my writing X amount of time ago was not nearly as good as it is today. Like now I just end up, I just start with a blank piece of paper and I just spit this stuff out. I used to have to, copy, paste and fart around and take this out and take that out. They were super long, etc. But so I got better at it is what I'm getting at. Right. And now you literally, you said that. You said, Karl, this is a superpower of you, which by the way, I super appreciate genuinely. Right. Like that's kind of cool to hear from your buddy. But like, it didn't start that way. So who cares about Karl? What about you guys? Speaking. I suck at speaking. Well, no, you might not be. First of all, you don't suck at speaking because if you get up there and care about the audience, you do a great job. But don't worry about that. Like you're going to get better at it. And this is where don't commit to doing one event, commit to doing 10. And then it's like, Karl, I don't feel like I'm the best business coach, but I really want to give back. And I say, well, just concentrate on that. Really give to your client. Really care. Like one of the things, again, when you're starting out as a coach, and I sign up and I'm $1,000 a month to you, right? So you're the coach and I'm the client. I pay you $1,000 a month. And what's the agreement? Like an hour a week is what we do. Well, don't just do an hour a week. What you got to do is what it takes. That's the secret, right? So when you're learning, don't worry about how much you're earning. Worry about how much you're learning. Like it's one letter off, learning and earning. People mix the two up. Right. So, and then if you're kicking butt and taking names, you got lots of coaching clients, you're in a completely different world. But I would also encourage you, in fact, again, a little bit of a riff, but back in the day when I was a business coach, look, I was, genuinely, I was really good at it. There's no question. And getting a coaching client was not exactly a huge challenge for me. Right. So what I would do is I would take on coaching clients that I felt like I could learn something from, or that could expand my network and I could see an opportunity, like say a B2B client, as in an accountant, a business broker, a guy who owns a networking organization, but I wouldn't take on anybody who I didn't feel like, there was something for me to learn. So that's just the way that I took it on. So I was constant. That was just at a very, young age, very, very early on in my business coaching career. That's what I was thinking about. So once again, who cares about me? What about you guys? How much are you learning from your coaching clients? How long are they sticking around? And can you genuinely say that you're not just coaching them with what the agreement says in the 1 hour a week, but are you totally committed and totally doing, what it takes? Because that's the difference. Like Tom Brady, a quarterback, just picture a quarterback, and he's got these 300-pound monsters running after him, trying to drill his head into the ground, hoping that he gets a concussion so he can't play the rest of the game, right? Well, he doesn't do what the playbook says. He doesn't do what he thinks, the coach told him to do, which is stand in the pocket and take a hit. He's got to run around and scramble and move towards the sideline and get away. And he runs backwards, forwards, sideways, whatever it takes to get away from the guy. And then as he's getting pounded, he'll whip the ball out of bounds so that he doesn't have to take the loss and they can go back up to the line of scrimmage. Like, think about that. Like, that's what Tom Brady's doing. Like, our 10 calls before 10 all of a sudden just aren't that challenging when you see, the level of Tom Brady's workouts and then the commitment that he's got in the pocket when this 300-pound gorilla is trying to sandwich him. And yeah, he's getting paid handsomely, but remember, he did all this stuff for free before he got there. So again, are you doing what it takes, right? Are you on a 100% mission to learn versus earn? And then I know that's all well and good to say, and Karl, but look, man, I'm 55 years old. I've got, 2 kids, and they're in, 3 sports and bills. So, like, I get it, but just the reality is the reality, right? So you've got to make those short-term financial commitments. I get it, but just make sure that you're putting in the time. You waking up at 4 a.m. to read and strategize for 3 hours before the kids get up. Or your body can afford to get a little bit less sleep for a period of time while you go through this trajectory. You're the airplane. If you're starting out, and a lot of the coach listening if you're starting out, you're an airplane on the ground. Think about how difficult it is to get that damn plane up to mid-flight to 10,000 feet or wherever they fly, right? Like it's a It's a lot of effort. That's where you're at. That's what you got to do. But good news, you've only got to do it for a period of time. And then your flight is, your plane is up there, and, the roadmap becomes significantly easier, like I was talking about earlier, when you go 50, 55, 60, 65. This gig becomes much easier over time. It doesn't become harder. In my opinion, that's a reason to dig in, commit fully, and make this your career. Really buy in. If you're not sold, you're not going to be able to sell it, right? So, anywho, so there you go, man. That's what I would.
Let me add this in, bud. The only thing I'll say is this: if you really are struggling with that, I would suggest to you you're not working with the right people, either in terms of the actual business owner, because I've worked with industries that I may not have really dug the industry, but I just really appreciate the guy that I was working with. Or I try to focus in on businesses. I'm just naturally curious, because when you have that natural curiosity to want to learn the ins and outs and to really truly help them, it's no longer work. It's just fun. And that's the part for me. It's like I'm always trying to think of what's an industry I want to pull, the curtain back from, that I can see how it works and then see how I can make a difference in it. And I just think that natural curiosity alone, it's a game changer. So,
yeah, but would you agree though, through your own business coaching journey, it's been exactly that. Like I said, I've got better at writing these emails over time. You wouldn't have said that, I don't think, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. Would you agree with that?
Well, I remember clearly you and I sitting at the pub, and seriously,
what are you talking about, Road Dog? Us at the pub, man? I don't go to the pub. I don't know what you're talking about.
So we're October. No, we were sitting there, and it's like this restaurant, and we're looking at it, and I'm like, I wouldn't even know how to work with a business like this. And you said, give it a couple of years and just see what happens. And you're right. That's all it was. Because now I could go in to, that restaurant right there, that pub, and that all the things that we could do. But I didn't have that sense of confidence when I first started. Like anything, it just takes time.
I love it, man. High five, dude. And I've watched the journey, and it's been a pleasure, brother. It's been a pleasure, man. So, but look, there we go, buddy. Much appreciated, dude. Let's rock and roll for today. Any more? Are we good? We're gonna take any leftovers and move them to next week, correct, bud?
Yeah, it's time to pack it up, pack it in. So let's get the workday going for everybody here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening to Business Coaching Secrets. If you could do us a favor, you could share this with anybody who you think would be a fabulous business coach, or somebody that is already a business coach looking to take it to the next level. That would be super duper appreciated. If you give us a rating, of course, we'd love that. And also a review, and tell us if you liked it, even if you hated it. Hopefully that's not the case, but if you did, hey, let me know. So thank you so much, Road Dog. Thanks for everybody listening. We will see you on the next podcast. Appreciate your time, and take that business coaching business of yours to new heights, folks. Thank you so much for being here, and toodaloo.
Make it a great week, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at Focused.com.